Today's video is sponsored by this incredible LG Ultra Gear 39G S95QE monitor, aka the coolest damn thing that's happened to my setup in a while. It is a 39-inch curved OLED monitor with a 0.03 ms response speed. This thing has been absolutely insane. We've gone to the point where we're being sponsored by monitor companies, and let me tell you, oh boy, what a time to be Bricky. It is 240 hertz, 1440p with that response rate. When I was playing XDefiant, I was able to use the huge amount of space that it gave me, and just the immersiveness for it. It's so good. I did it in Helldivers. It's so good. It was super easy to set up. It has some of the greatest colors I have seen in a monitor so far. The curvature is perfect, not too much, and just OLED is such a great look nowadays, especially with that response speed. I'm not sacrificing anything when I actually play my quick shooter games. I'm genuinely stoked. So go ahead and check out LG Ultra Gear's OLED gaming monitor here. This one is the 39G. It is in the description, link right there. Give it a look. Thank you so much for the monitor, LG. I am very pleased. And thank you so much for sponsoring this video. In the 2000s and early 2010s, there was a substantial push for the multiplayer shooter video game. 6v6, team deathmatch, domination, king of the hill, and whatever else you wanted to put into your video game so that you could capitalize on that prolific multiplayer market. Even games that were clear single-player titles had to put in some kind of multiplayer mode the higher-ups requested. And it's astonishing that you can, at times, still find a game for BioShock 2. But with time, a push was made to go the esports route, the hyper competition, the spectator sport kind of video game. One life only rounds, hero-based game modes, and of course, the battle royale genre. So with time, the classic deathmatch style game just went by the wayside, and there was a gap left, only being filled by a couple smaller titles and of course the yearly Call of Duty. In a bit of a interesting twist, Ubisoft decided to release their very own deathmatch style game, a free-to-play shooter utilizing factions from its various IPs and looking to make a bit of a splash in the current shooter market. Normally, I would just write this off, as most Ubisoft games do not pique my interest anymore. I am not a hyper-competitive person to enjoy Rainbow Six Siege. I do not care for the massive open worlds of Assassin's Creed or Ghost Recon. I left For Honor a worse person than when I went in. But being so starved for that kind of game, the spawn, die, respawn immediately, go again, over and over again, that kind of motif, well, I mean, it's free to play, so it's no reason for me to not give raw XDefiant a try. And my results? Confusing. XDefiant is a free-to-play video game. My initial line after this in the script was going to be, quote, which means it's going to be completely filled to the brim with microtransactions, unquote. But this is Ubisoft we are talking about here. If this was a fully priced game that also had a monthly subscription and required blood donations each quarter, it would still give you doe eyes and ask you to buy an XP booster. More on that later. For the actual tangible parts of the game, it is a 6v6 team-based shooter. It is 100% attempting to challenge Call of Duty at its game currently. The game modes are the ones we have seen the most often, including Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, Domination, Payload Escort, and so on. And when I say it's trying to challenge COD, I don't mean that in a loose sense where I'm talking about a fast-paced shooter with quick time to kill. I say it in the same vein as Valorant taking on CSGO. It's very clear what its intentions are. The only major departure from the formula is the addition of character abilities, but even that isn't a huge asterisk. It just makes it more like Black Ops 4 compared to Black Ops 2. Playing the game involves picking a faction which determines your choice of passive, tactical ability, and ultimate. Then you choose a loadout consisting of a primary, secondary, and grenade tactical of sort, and you load into the match. You get your usual starting soon timer, then are thrown at each other and kill one another until the point or time limit have been reached. It is absolutely 100%, no questions asked, a Call of Duty deathmatch style game. Make no reservations. If you are downloading this, then you should know exactly what you are expecting to get. Where it gets a bit more individualized is when you get to the actual meat of the game. For someone like me who literally grew up with titles such as this, a lot of the nitty-gritty aspects start to come into view. For example, XDefiant operates on a 100 health system, which is the reason it contains such a genuinely fast time to kill. To get all science-like for a moment, health systems don't always adjust a game's time to kill, but they tend to be a good signifier. Weapons often deal damage based on numbers, based on range. So if I'm John Duty all the way over here and I fire at Timmy Cod all the way down here, my assault rifle will do 25 damage a shot, giving me a 4-shot kill. However, if Timmy Cod moved away, the range will be worse. So maybe I do 23 damage. That makes it a 5-shot kill instead of a 4-shot kill. And that changes your time to kill across the board. This gets really in depth when you get into things like headshot multipliers and all the other stuff. But if you made the poor decision to buy Modern Warfare 3 2023 and play its frustratingly decent multiplayer, you'll notice the time to kill feels a bit longer in that game compared to others. That's because it uses, 150 health system instead of 100. Games like Apex Legends and Halo run higher health points for their various times to kill, but I also like it a lot because it allows for more weapon variance in terms of numbers. When you have a higher total number at 150 or 200, things can be cranked in a lot of different ways to give you a large variety of time to kills. What I'm trying to say here is that XDefiant has a very fast time to kill, which makes it all the crazier when I load into a game with a character whose health says in big bold letters 120. One of the things this game does actually very well, and a genuinely fun idea, is how it uses Ubisoft IPs to create its in-game factions. The 5 current factions are the Cleaners from The Division, Libertad from Far Cry, Phantoms from Ghost Recon, Echelon from Splinter Cell, and DedSec from Watch Dogs. As mentioned earlier, each have their own passive, abilities, and ultimate, and they tend to keep in line with their factions concepts pretty well. The Cleaners get reduced range on their guns, but leave a burning effect on all weapon damage they inflict. They also have a flamethrower drone and an AoE firebomb, which is a source of a genuine hilarity at times. Their ultimate is also a flamethrower, which should surprise nobody. The Ghost Recon Phantoms are my personal favorite because they start the game with 120 health instead of 100. This is basically running Juggernaut in COD 4, which in practice isn't the most insane thing, but just understand that enemy snipers will absolutely despise you as their body shots become 50% less effective. That said, their riot shield is humorous on some payload missions, but their one-way shield is absolutely insane when utilized properly and gives you an advantage in almost all modes that is really hard to deal with, or at least people haven't quite figured it out. Your ultimate is a Winton bubble with an interesting shotgun that only reaches to enemies in the bubble. The liberals. Gay. They get automatic health regen immediately without waiting, and tons of other various healing items both for themselves and their team. Echelon appears to be a favorite, at least it's the one I've seen the most, but it could just be the skin-tight suit on the main lady you start with. It has a personal cloak and a pulsing wall hack ability, and of course you can slap on your Splinter Cell goggles with a silenced pistol and get permanent wall hacks while one-shot headshotting every enemy player. It is actually very neat. Lastly, DedSec is all about hacking and debilitating attacks, including an annoying sniper drone grabbing your face and disabling other people's abilities. All of this is genuinely interesting game design. I did not expect an IP-based first-person shooter, but not only did they make it one, but also added real differences in how each group operates. If you're the Cleaners, for example, that extra burn damage is great at reducing enemy healing speed, but does also reduce your weapon's range. So in a sense, they're really good for close quarters where that range loss just doesn't matter. So that pushes you towards things like SMGs and shotguns and being a relatively close quarter person, which is good because your abilities like the firebomb and ultimate flamethrower are also close range weapons too. Phantom is obviously tank-based characters, the Libertad are support healers, Echelon are assassins, and DedSec are control and disorientation. They didn't have to go this hard in into the general character variety, especially for a game where how well you shoot your gun is still the most important part of it all, but they did. And I commend it. Of course, at this point, you've heard this song and dance before time and time again. Shooty gun man game is played like shooty gun man game. People are bouncing around corners, doing jump shots, the whole usual thing, moving around like a floundering fish because that's how these games are played. How incredibly original, Bricky. This video is far too positive for a free-to-play COD competitor. Get mad, get angry, find a way to complain. Oh, don't you worry, because I want to talk about the UI and the UX for this game and how fucking abysmal it is. Look at the screen. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I hope so, because it has the same visuals as a mobile game does. Why is the top center objective so large and always showing? I know the game mode I'm playing, I loaded into it. What is the ability section here? Why is it so large, so front and center, and so obtrusive? My cooldowns are measured in tens of seconds, and my ultimate is like once per game. I don't need this to be so big. And most importantly, what is up with this font? The entire font screams early build and cheap. UI is one of those things that you often don't notice if it's good, but when it's bad, you really start to see it. And just, I mean, look at the shit that's going on up here. It's no Suicide Squad, but this is a fast-paced shooter, not a looter game, and the amount of just visual clutter, especially when it comes to score and health and symbols, it just gets ridiculous. I would say don't get me started about UX too, but you know that's where we're going. For the uninitiated, UI stands for user interface and UX stands for user experience. One is how everything looks and how easy it is to get information that isn't obtrusive. There is an art to this, and it is genuinely not something easy to do, and when it's pulled off well, it absolutely increases the game's experience. I have championed Destiny for a while on its UI because considering how much stuff is going on screen, especially for a loot-based FPS MMO, it's still pretty damn clean and easy to understand in the moment-to-moment gameplay. As for UX, this is something I noticed almost immediately when playing XDefiant. Wait, it says unlock via challenge, but how do you know what the challenge is?
Oh, you go to the challenges on the home page.
They don't have... Ooh, this double-barreled shotgun is unlocked by challenges. What's the challenge? I don't know. I have to go to challenges. The general interface with the menus is sloppy and sluggish, constantly requiring you to go to different areas and different menus specifically to understand what is going on with the menu you're currently looking at. Nothing genuinely feels intuitive, and that's because nothing looks good or moves like it should. UI in games, I feel, has been trending towards the negatives more lately, and I don't know if it's due to company cost cuts, outsourcing of work, or what have you, but it is honestly no less apparent than right here. It's actually a massive turnoff for just discussion about the title, because regardless of how decent the moment-to-moment gameplay is, the game looks so ugly the moment you enter that it just turns people off from the get-go. Hell, you'd think Ubisoft, of all people, would at least spend more on making the experience better for the buying of money to purchase cosmetics in the game, but even that looks terrible too. You would genuinely assume that out of everything, the process to spend money on a free-to-play game would be easiest, but it looks and feels just as ugly. I don't know who or what the culprit is for the recent trend of absolutely horrendous video game UI and UXs, but I hope they are found and given a very stern talking to and or the brazen bull, because it is getting ridiculous and it is consistent. Which makes it all the more annoying to say this here and now, but XDefiant doesn't really suck when it comes to the gameplay department. Now, when you're one of those people who rages really quickly at deaths in COD, especially if you're one of those people who hates the jumping around bunny hopping assholes in shooter games nowadays, then you probably won't like this. But for someone like me who doesn't take individual deaths too seriously and understands a certain level of quick time to kill, like random bullshit, the game does feel pretty good to play. The moment-to-moment gameplay is quick and snappy. The game's speed also feels rather good, and they even do a lot of things I've wanted modern COD games to do, but never will. You know what was one of the most underrated parts of Modern Warfare 3? The good one, 2009? The amount of damn factions that game had.
Team Deathmatch. Team Deathmatch. Team Deathmatch. Team Deathmatch. Team Deathmatch.
It's such a minor thing, but moving to only 2 main factions has always felt like the tiniest corner to cut, but doing so makes you lose so much extra fun. Whimsy, if you may. Each of the factions of XDefiant actually have their very own announcer who narrates the entire match for you, which is really damn cool.
You keep on that capture zone, even if it gives you the runaround.
A teammate became the hotshot. Provide covering fire.
Stop the hostiles from moving that package, Shadow Team. Weapon dry.
Also, the game just sometimes decides to hit you randomly out of nowhere with really good character voice acting for no reason, often while using ultimates.
Smoke 'em. You're on a roll, buddy.
I see you. Fight without fear.
So you get these random bits of decent concepts that slowly make their way through the game as you play, and you realize that also, these maps kind of bang. It's one of the reasons why I realized the UI was so ugly, because it cluttered the very well-made maps. They have multiple points for various firefight ranges. They have solid lanes that are reminiscent of the 2008-2012 COD era, and they just look really good. They use the same concept of taking map ideas from their current IPs, and they look and play great. Modern COD wishes they had maps that were made this well, even though they're just stealing them from Modern Warfare 2 anyway. This is the real annoyance I'm finding myself in. The game doesn't suck. The roots are there. This does play well and actually could compete in the space. So why did you have to make it look so damn ugly? That really is the final problem with XDefiant. Despite how decent it is as a title, not breaking new ground, not blowing anyone away, but genuinely being okay at competing in the space it wants to compete in, when I am physically repulsed by how it carries itself, it makes it difficult to want to play it for extended periods of time. That also adds to our final point, the microtransactions. The game is free to play, so I'm expecting all the usual, and I won't actually be too mad about it for the most part because it's a free to play game. My issue with most free to play business models is that the prices are just so astronomically large and laughable, or the grind is insane to force you into buying. See Apex and Overwatch 2. XDefiant runs into a different problem, a classic problem. The rewards suck. It's a battle pass, and the battle pass just has 90% uninteresting rewards. There's a shop, and none of the things in the shop are honestly worth buying. Ironically, in the pass, there are a few neat concepts in there. One thing they do is create special effects when you kill someone by your nameplate, or if you get player of the game. That's a fun way to do a victory pose that doesn't suck. Unfortunately, everything else sucks. The gun skins are not particularly interesting because the guns are also not particularly interesting. The character skins don't matter because this is a first-person shooter 95% of the time, and everything else is just fluff. If Ubisoft doesn't get decent profits from this title, it isn't because their model is bad, it's because what they have on offer is bad. Also, they do that thing where you have to overbuy money in order to pay for something at a very specific threshold because they're Ubisoft. And also, one more thing, the game is not available on Steam. You can download it through the Ubisoft launcher that they've made, and as I speak these words, about half of you had your interest immediately killed, and I only half blame you.
What with you being, well, being a gamer.
I'm not naturally angry if a game is not on Steam. I have a lot of launchers, and not wanting to give up 30% of your income to Steam is a pretty justifiable reason to want to make your own launcher. The issue is all the other ones are just incredibly mediocre, and Ubisoft is one of those ones. Here's the thing about XDefiant. It's in an incredibly unenvious position to be not incredible and not a colossal flop. It is in that position of overwhelmingly okay. It is free and it is challenging a large player in the space, so it will get some community. There's a good chance that COD pros will play it a bit, but whether they stick with it or not will be decided by if the game continues to have a community or viewership. Often amazing games don't get Twitch views, and Twitch views equals a job for a lot of pro players, because being a pro player doesn't pay dick. If this game was a Skull and Bones, it would get lots of notoriety and we would all have a huge laugh at it. If this game was incredible, I'd be here giving you huge recommendations, but it is aggressively okay. It scratches a very specific itch for myself, and I will probably play it here and there because it's very easy to hop in and hop out, and the gameplay is serviceable to pretty good. The lack of a skill-based matchmaking in the regular playlist also is nice, as I don't need to care much about how I play either, even if I don't really understand SBMM as well as I'd like it to. But regardless, if your initial impression was a COD spinoff made by Ubisoft with lots of microtransactions and mediocre gameplay, then you'd be completely spot on, except for the gameplay, which is a little better than that. I think, following in the trend of most Ubisoft games, the actual package on offer is better than they deserve and is higher quality than it would appear. It's just completely surrounded by all of the other stuff. So try it if you'd like it. You may enjoy it a ton. It is free after all, but for me here and now, I give it aggressively okay. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Still playing with the new style of videos, the voiceover, the in-person, messing around with it a little bit. Got a few more videos before we probably tackle the Mass Effect stuff, so stay tuned, stick around, check out your merchandise at BrickyMerch.com. We got lots of stuff. It's great. Buy it now. It's in the description. Bye-bye.
Come on. Obviously, you're a skater.